Hello, one. Hello, all. Or maybe I should just keep it to hello, one. We only have one person in the chat so far. I suspect I know who the person is. Wink, wink. Let's get some stories up in the meantime. Boxing scene. Boxing news. Andrew, yes, sir. How you doing, my friend? Hope you're doing well. Hope you get to stay with us for a bit. Just getting some stories up in the meantime. Waiting for the chat to fill up a little bit. So if there's anything in particular we want to talk about, my friends, just drop it in the chat. The more the merrier when it comes to topics. Didn't really have one in mind. I just wanted to chat to you guys, have a hangout, and we'll see where we go from there. Andrew, you ask if I got any plans for Christmas and New Year's. Um, no plans that are different to any other year, to be honest. I've actually just haven't really finished with university, in all honesty, because that's kind of why I'm doing a live stream today. I submitted a pretty big assignment today, so I'm feeling a little bit more relieved. But I've still got some work to do over the holiday period. But other than that, um, yeah, in my family, Christmas and New Year's isn't really a massive thing. It's really just routine almost, just seeing relatives uh, on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day. Other than that, nothing. I usually spend New Year's Eve with my best friend. Might be doing that this year, I'm not sure, because his family's actually just moved house and don't know what the space is like over there, whether they can host a lot of people. But yeah, I'm me and my family are definitely one for low key celebrations. So it'll just be more of the same this year. Um, how about you, Andrew, and everyone else for that matter? What are your plans for Christmas and the New Year? Just as well, you guys could probably hear I'm not too well. Well, I'm actually better now, but I've been ill over the past couple of days. So if I mute myself to cough and clear my throat, just bear in mind uh, that's why I might go silent mid sentence because I don't want you guys to have to listen to me coughing and spluttering. It's not very pleasant listening experience. Exhibit A, I'll say. So, people, got three of you in the chat. What do we want to talk about? Are there any topics in particular? I haven't really checked much on the boxing news. Got Boxing Scene and Boxing News 24 ahead of me. Boxing Scene, talking about Boxing News, rather, talking about Jamal Charlo making a comeback in 2023. Well, yeah, he's Jamal. Yeah, that's middleweight Charlo. Yeah, he's not very active, is he? When was the last time he fought? Was it when the hell was it? When did Jamal Charlo last fight? Okay, don't rely on memory. Just actually check his box rec. That's what it's there for. All right, middleweight Jamal Charlo. What the hell is he? Or has he gone up to super middle? Because I can't find him in the middleweight rankings. Where the hell is this guy? Has he been inactive for that long that Boxrec haven't bothered to update his position or something? I'm gonna have to check his Wikipedia. Damn. Right to the bottom. Oh yeah, when he fought Montiel last June. No, not last June. June last year. Damn. That's not good enough. That is not good enough. Oh yeah, I remember. Of course, I did a poll on my channel, and I asked the question if Jamal Charlo should be stripped because, like, over a year, like X amount of days had passed since he had defended his title. Yeah, that's not good enough. That is not good enough. And look, I'm sure Jamal Charlo doesn't want to be inactive as a fighter. You know, he's a professional fighter. He probably wants to fight, but you really have to, I think, ask questions of the team around him and potentially him if he's being offered fights but not taking them. But he's suffering. Like, yeah, Jamal Charlo is one of those fighters who you forget about because he doesn't fight, hardly fights, because he fought June 2021 against Montiel. And Montiel's a good fighter. I remember in the lead up to that fight thinking, I don't think he'll beat Charlo, but I think he'll give a good account of himself. Before that, he beat Derevianchenko. I can hardly remember that fight just because I was so disappointed in Derevianchenko. I thought he'd do a lot better. No, not taking any credit away from Jamal Charlo. Yeah. So Charlo's fought once last year, once the year before that, twice in 2019, twice in 2018, once in 2017, twice in 2016. That's not good. That is not good. Holding a belt hostage. Andrew says, same to be honest. Over cousins for a family get together. New Year's Eve will be quiet. Party and clubbing days are over. My partying and clubbing days didn't even start. So, yeah, sounds like you're on the same kind of wave as me. Fight of the year plus top 5 fights you want in 2023. Okay. My fight of the year. Actually, I'm gonna have to remember which fights there actually were. Damn. Fight of the year 2022. You know what? I'll get back to you on that one. Top 5 fights I want in 2023. I'll have to get back to you on that one as well, just because there are quite a few and I want to give a good answer. In the meantime, I'll put it in the back of my head and I'll get back to you. Andrew also asked, you would think that biological twins would have a similar mindset. 154-pound Charlo is totally different to the 160 version. Yeah. I don't know, to be honest, because I don't know how closely twins resemble each other in terms of personality. Um, but it's a good point, and I think there certainly is a difference between the two of them. Uh, the the 154-pound Charlo just seems to be a bit more of a go-getter, I want to say, and at least that's what his form has implied over recent years. The 160-pound Charlo is just kind of, I don't know, just kind of leaves a bit to be desired. Good athlete, good fighter, but just the inactivity, man, it's terrible. Um, G the PT asks, "What's up, bro? Did you watch Rivera versus Martin?" No, I caught a couple of highlights of Rivera versus Martin, but G, to be honest, recently I've just been. You can probably tell by my upload rate, I have been busy, so uh, I've had hardly any time to watch boxing. Uh, and so when it does come to watching boxing, I really just try and catch highlights of fights. And if it's a really meaningful fight, I'll watch the whole thing. But no, I haven't seen Rivera versus Martin. Did you? And if so, is it a fight worth watching? What's your assessment? Because I know uh, Martin, a lot of people have been talking about him recently, like he could potentially be a somebody in the division. I know Chris Andre was not tipping him to beat Devin Haney, but he said he could be a handful for Haney. Whereas someone like Tank Davis, I think Chris said Tank probably has the beating of him. And speaking of Tank, Truth News asks, who wins, Tank or Pretty Boy Roy? Rye, almost said Roy. Um, I'm going for Tank. Yeah, I'm not entirely sold on Ryan Garcia. I think he is good. I think there is some substance there, but I think there's some red flags for me in regards to Ryan Garcia's mindset. I think he is a product of the younger generation who really have a questionable work ethic. And bear in mind that me and Ryan Garcia are essentially part of the same generation. So I feel like I'm able to give a good account um, and a good perspective. And yeah, Ryan Garcia, he blew up way before he achieved anything in professional boxing. And many people argue that he hasn't achieved anything in professional boxing, um, other than being considered a top guy. But being considered a top guy isn't really an achievement as such. So you really do question how much does Ryan Garcia actually want it, and is he tough enough? Because Tank Davis, I believe that most of the criticisms leveraged against him have been surrounding the matchmaking. Um, but and yeah, he has been matched favorably. You can tell there's a touch of Mayweather with how Tank has been matched, and I feel like his career started off to a good trajectory. I think he was developed well as a prospect. Had some very good step up fights against Pedraza, and then Liam Walsh as a first defense, then Fonseca. But then he started to lose his way a little bit. Then he came back and um, he was on some decent form. You know, beat Cuellar and a couple of guys like that. So I've been mostly impressed with Tank, but the past couple of years, you know, fighting Azteca, what's his name? Damn it, the tall guy looks like an avatar. Uh, that's gonna really bug me. Um, oh, hot girls for me apparently. No thanks. Block you. Um, excuse me. Yeah. So, moral of the story: I've been impressed with Tank. His ability. I think technically he's starting to get a bit lazy. Earlier in his career, I was really impressed with him. Like he had good eyes. Barrios, that's it. Thank you, G. Um, yeah, but Tank, I feel like, and I've spoken about this before, he's kind of fallen into the lazy Mayweather type of style where guys copy Mayweather, and they don't really understand what Mayweather did. Mayweather was able to get away with it because he had years and years of experience. He was able to control almost every part of a fight. Um, yeah, Tank fighting the likes of Leo Santa Cruz, that's not good enough. Barrios, I could understand the marketing, but Barrios was a guy who started at like 122 pounds anyway. He just happened to be fairly tall. And if you can actually find my uh, Tank Davis Barrios pre-fight prediction, and I almost predicted it spot on. So it was relatively predictable. Um, and yeah, but that being said, Tank Davis has been much more solid. He lacks some discipline, but I don't think he lacks discipline in the way where it's going to cost him that badly in a high stakes fight. Whereas with Ryan Garcia, his discipline is like he can't hold it together mentally. And dare I say, Ryan Garcia comes across as a bit of a softy, whereas someone like Tank Davis, who's a bit of a hood rat, a little bit of a street guy, that's the way he perceives you. That's gonna kind of that's gonna be chucking gas on his fire. See what I mean? So I'll be going for Tank. Um, could Ryan Garcia win? Yeah, I think he's got the power to stop Tank, but I don't think he'll land. That's the thing. Tank's pretty good. Small, explosive, good technique, decent boxing brain. That's a tough ask. Because Tank is the kind of guy who uses a size disadvantage and turns it into an advantage. Because he's got good speed. He's a small target. He darts around, and he punches way above his weight. And speaking of weight, Madders asks, does Tank beat everyone from 135 to 147? Nah, I don't see that happening at all. I don't even think Tank would beat Lomachenko, who's obviously a small lightweight. Um, Tank Tank gets some. He'd get some good wins along the way, but if he was on a mission to fight everyone at lightweight, like welterweight and welterweight, this guy, I feel like he'd lose more than he wins, especially at 140 and 147. But that's because he'd just be way north of where he is naturally. Yeah, Ryan has been a female dog mentally. Too many Mariah Carey moments. Yeah, it's really like quite cringeworthy. And I don't want to kick people when they're down because maybe he is generally suffering from something, but it's just, where's your resolve? You know, you're in the arena of boxing, which is notoriously tough. Um, and that people can grow up. I remember there was uh, Shakur Stevenson. He caught quite a lot of flack from a lot of people on the internet because of his outburst following the 2016 Olympics when he got a silver instead of a gold. And I could understand why people were criticizing him because in boxing, people will do anything they can to get an advantage, get under your skin, try and remind you of a time you showed weakness to get you to deviate emotionally. But I still felt that because Shakur Stevenson was so young, I felt like he still had time to develop. And I feel like that's what we've seen because if you look at his pro career, he's been very impressive, Shakur Stevenson. And if you look at his mindset as well, this is not a guy who's afraid to get in and do the business with whoever. Whereas with Ryan Garcia, you start to ask the question, is it maybe a bit too late? Has he developed into the manliest version of himself, quote unquote? And if so, that's not a good look. Um, so yeah, Ryan Garcia, don't have much faith in his mentality. G says Rivera made absolutely no adjustments throughout the fight. Didn't seem to be able to deal with a southpaw. Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of the time, and I'm not saying this was the case for Rivera, but I've seen a lot of themes over the years in boxing, or one particular theme, especially in America, with fighters, and they have like a degree of polish to their punches and their movements. Like they look quite athletic, they look almost a bit flashy, But when I look at a fighter, I deem a fighter a good boxer, someone with good IQ, when they understand how to make adjustments, when they have layers to their offense and their defense. What is the application of the technique, not just the polish of the technique? And so, yeah, that being said, Rivera, I've never heard of Rivera before the lead up to the fight with Martin, so I'm not really sure what perception there was of him. Um, but yeah, making adjustments in a fight is not easy. That's why you have to give credit to guys like Terence Crawford, guys like Lomachenko, and other guys. You know, there are quite a few guys who good IQs who are able to make adjustments on the fly throughout throughout a fight because it's not easy. And the legendary fighters of the past, ones who had really good boxing brains, they were able to do that. And I think that's really what separates Mayweather, of course. Great adjustments. Um, it really it separates good fighters from great fighters. Madders laughing at me calling Javonta Davis a hood rat. I mean, yeah, you know what I mean. He's a street guy. He's someone who obviously comes from a rough neighborhood and seems to be still immersed in that street culture, at least to some degree. Andrew, Ryan needs TRT, too much estrogen than kid. Yeah, Ryan Garcia, he comes across, I may be completely wrong, but just based on some of his behavior, he comes across as a guy who grew up with a single mum and loads of sisters, you know, didn't have any brothers, probably had minimal contact with his dad. As I say, I may be completely wrong, but you know, you can kind of spot young boys and men who have grown up like that. Matters. In my opinion, Lomachenko, Haney, Shakur, Garcia all lose to Tank. None of them have the IQ he has. Loma is an extremely manufactured fighter. I've got to disagree with you there, Matters. Could Tank realistically beat those guys? Absolutely. I think Tank has ability. I think he has power, athletic ability, but I don't think he beats all of them. And then your point about Lomachenko being an extremely manufactured fighter, I strongly disagree with that. Lomachenko, I feel, is the real deal, and people seem to be kind of forgetting his body of work just because he lost to Teofimo Lopez, but they're not considering that Lomachenko started his career at 126 pounds, is now at lightweight, and is a small lightweight, yet he's still getting good victories over good fighters. That, yeah, I think you're stretching it a bit there, buddy. But look, that's your opinion. I just respectfully disagree. I think Andrew disagrees as well. G, how does Loma beat Tank? I think I don't want to say it'd be straightforward, but I think it would be as long as you know what I think it'd be. I may be wrong, but I suspect that Lomachenko would probably approach that fight the same way he approached the Rigondo fight, where he's just looking to really. I mean, this is kind of what Lomachenko does all the time, but he had a lot of success with using his feints against Rigondo just to basically make him a stationary target, because you'd see that Rigondo he'd kind of just be resigned to the back half of his stance. And then from there, Lomachenko was able to work his way around, because we know that Rigondo, he's not a counter puncher. He's a very sharp kind of sniper of a puncher, primarily with the left hand. Whereas with Davis, he's a bit more two-handed. He's got the left hand and the right hand, and he's got those kind of leaping variations of them, but he's not much of a combination puncher. Not with the counters anyway, from what I've seen. So I think Lomachenko would just look to make Tank Davis go first with those single shots and catch him off. I don't think it'd be easy, but I'd be fairly confident in Lomachenko winning that fight. Um, doesn't mean he does. I could be completely wrong, but I still think Lomachenko beats Tank even at this stage of his career. And even if anything, you can just look at the matchmaking of Tank Davis. Who has, if he was to be fighting Lomachenko next, you'd ask the question: who has had better preparation for who? Neither guy has really faced a fighter who resembles the other. In terms of Lomachenko hasn't really fought anyone who resembles Tank Davis. Tank Davis hasn't really fought anyone that resembles Lomachenko, not really. But who's been in against a higher level of opposition? And I think that's been Lomachenko. He's probably a bit sharper. Iron sharpens iron. We've got a couple guys in the chat. Joseph King says, large up Outmatch and the rest of the Boxing Brotherhood. Yes, sir, Joseph King. It's good to have you here, my friend. I hope you can stay and talk boxing for a bit. And we also have the legend himself. We have G-Man Boxing. He says, salute. Salute to you, G-Man. Hope all is well, and I hope you can stick with us a little bit. I know is Wednesday midweek report. So let me know. But I hope you can stay and chat boxing with us. Just a quick one tonight. Might go for another half an hour or so, but it's good to have you guys here regardless. And yeah, you guys who have just joined, any plans for Christmas and New Year's? We were just talking about that a few minutes ago. We're all old men in here by the sounds of it. We're just looking to stay in with the family and not do much. Excuse me, guys. Just had to have a bit of a coughing fit. Yeah, just recovering from a bit of a cold. It's no biggie. We move on. Anything else? What are these? These news headlines saying? So speaking of Davis, obviously he's fighting on the 7th of January against Hector Luis Garcia. I have seen a bit of the, or did I see most of it? I think I saw most of his fight against Colbert, but I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed by Hector Luis Garcia. I don't think he's really going to pose any problems for Tank Davis. Not that he's a bad fighter. I just think he's a bit of an average fighter, whereas Tank is a good fighter. And I'll probably do a prediction close to the fight, but I suspect it's going to be a Gervonta Davis win, and a big one at that, really hyping up the fight with Ryan Garcia. But even then, when it comes to Ryan Garcia, I believe the fight's going to happen when when both guys are in the ring, because Ryan Garcia's track record hasn't been great. G asks, Loma versus Haney. Who have I got? That's a close fight in my opinion. I've flip flopped a little bit in regards to Haney. Sometimes he's impressed me, other times he hasn't. These days, I am still generally nonplussed when it comes to Haney. I don't find him to be that true a standout in his division. In his division, rather. His 2 wins against Kambosos were good. They're decent, but Kambosos is a very limited fighter. I've never rated Kambosos personally. Yeah, he's all right, but nothing special. And on top of that, Haney's style is just so ugly, and especially in those fights. And dare I say, a lot of what Haney does is just low quality. Like attempts to use the shoulder roll, but he just ends up dipping so low, and you can't do that. It's not legal. Um, when you consider that he's fairly tall as well, but then he's ducking below the waist of guys that are shorter than him. It's a bit like, what? How's this happening? And the holding, uh, yeah. And you could say, oh, it's effective because he doesn't get hit cleanly. Yeah, I mean, personally, uh, realistically, a lot of it isn't within the rules. But that being said, Haney does have a degree of talent. Um, he, uh, um, he's got size. He doesn't really punch that hard. I don't think he punches hard enough to really deter Lomachenko. So I think if he was to beat Lomachenko, or like at least stop Lomachenko in his tracks, he'd have to like really wrap him up a bit and use his wiriness. Um, so I don't know. Is Haney a bit green? Lomachenko a little bit old? That's a toss up in my opinion. For the longest time, I did favour Lomachenko just slightly, but after his performance against Rivera, a big, strong, athletic, youthful guy can can get the better of Lomachenko. But uh, Ortiz, Jermaine Ortiz, he impressed me in that one. I didn't expect that level of quality from him. He faded a bit down the stretch, but I suspect that Jermaine Ortiz is a bit more of a high quality boxer than Haney. So I may just go for Lomachenko. But it'd be close. Oh, Joseph King. Thank you very much. The season of generosity. £5 super chat. That means a lot. Thank you very much, Joseph. And you say this is for when you said a few lives ago, underneath that ultra trim type goatee of Ellaby, maybe hiding a glass jaw. Still cracks me up. Well, I'm glad I can provide some entertainment. But I feel like that's been the assertion of quite a few people, is they see that immaculate facial hair of Leonard Ellaby, and they're just like, you know what? There's no chin under that. I think I remember that was when someone asked me who would win between Ellaby and Hearn, and I can't see Ellaby winning that fight. To be honest, I think Hearn would ravage him. That wouldn't even be close, in my opinion. Wouldn't even be close. But yeah, Joseph King, thank you very much, my friend. It's greatly appreciated. And most importantly, I'm just happy I can entertain. That's what I go for. I've noticed we've been talking a lot about the lightweight division, talking about Tank, talking about Loma, Haney. I think everyone's kind of just been turned off a little bit of the heavyweight division because will it happen? Won't it happen? Tyson Fury and Usyk. People are looking elsewhere till that fight gets made. Joseph King also asked, "What are your thoughts on knuckle press ups? Do they actually strengthen your hands?" You know what? I can't say with any degree of I don't have any experience with them myself. I've always tried to avoid push ups on my knuckles because, and this I imagine this is probably similar for quite a few people, but after years of punching various things, including people, heavy bags, um, walls in some cases, my knuckles, my middle knuckle on both hands is significantly bigger than every other knuckle on my hand, and that is left and right. So my my knuckles are actually very uneven. I think, I don't know, looking at my hand now, I'd say my middle knuckle is probably twice the size of my pinky knuckle and my ring finger knuckle, and probably about 40% bigger than my index finger knuckle. So doing push-ups on my knuckles is just not comfortable at all. And that's actually a thing. When I because I've gone through pairs of boxing gloves in the past, but the main issue for me with boxing gloves is my middle knuckle just seems to tear through the material because it's so far ahead of the rest. The pressure just goes right through, and I've actually got a pair of rivals that I got in the summer. They are RB4s with the high density foam. And they're quite reasonable. I think they're only 45, £50. And and they're really good. The high density foam, I can feel it's able to take the punishment a bit more. But because it is, my knuckles get really sore. So it's kind of unfortunate. I have to like really be careful with the bag work, otherwise it will just mash up my knuckles and they'll just be bruised for weeks. Even when I'm wearing wraps, even when I've got my gloves on. Um, so yeah, more shadow boxing, less heavy bag work. But yeah, I don't know from an evidence perspective. I suspect if you want to just strengthen your hands for the sake of punching, I'd say get bag mitts. So you have bag gloves, which are standard gloves for hitting the bag, but you have bag mitts, which are typically about 4 ounce. I think they do 6 ounce tops, and it's really just a slightly padded sock, essentially, or like a mitten for your hand. And what that does is that really allows you to make a fist with very little interference, because a lot of boxing gloves, if they're ill fitting, which depending on what kind of hands you have, could be the majority of boxing gloves. You can get into you can develop patterns where you're not actually making a fist, and that can reduce your power, increase risk of injury to your hands and wrists. Whereas bag mitts, you actually have enough flexibility to make a fist, develop that impact and that rigidity in the wrist and the arm and the hands. Um, so yeah, I'd generally go for that over knuckle press ups. Um, because also as well, when it comes to strengthening exercises, you have to weigh up the stimulus to the comfort. So if you say you get a certain amount of stimulus for knuckle press ups, but then the fatigue to your bones, like your knuckles and your joints, is so much higher, it's probably not worth it. Whereas if you have something like hitting the bag in bag mitts, where your hands can take it and you develop good stimulus and it's a productive training, it's probably, you know, it's more bang for your buck, and it should probably be your mainstay. But yeah, moral of the story is I don't know. I've never enjoyed doing them, so I haven't done them. But I've worked on other things, and I've got pretty strong hands, to be honest. Um, uh, yeah. Also, it feeds into your grip as well. So do some grip work in terms of actually not just making a fist and holding it, but learning to grip things properly, strengthening the wrist, strengthening the muscles of the forearm, just fortify that area in general. Hope that answers your question. Andrew asks, do we finally get undisputed at heavyweight? I bloody hope so. I'll say that. I hope so. And I suspect, you know what? You never know until both guys are in the ring, the bell's about to go. But I suspect that we probably will. I have a feeling that come March 2023, we will see Usyk and Fury being made. Um, I could be wrong. I could be right and then wrong if the fight is announced and doesn't go ahead. Who knows? But I have a good feeling in the new year. It's never the undisputed fight. Like when it was announced, or it was being talked about last summer, so like August 2021. I I wasn't convinced, and people were asking me, like normies, like in my immediate family and whatnot. They would ask me, "Oh, what do you think? What do you think about Tyson Fury versus Joshua?" And I said, "It's not going to happen." I could feel that it wasn't going to happen, and don't want to be. I didn't want to be negative. I was just being realistic. I couldn't sense it happening. I didn't. I don't think I even made any videos about it, just because I wasn't convinced. Um, and yeah, lo and behold, it didn't happen. But I have a good feeling about this. I think March 2023, Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk. In my head, it sounds realistic. It sounds like it's got a ring to it, and I trust my instinct with this stuff. Um, Yeah, I think we might. Andrew asked why I'm punching walls. You know what? Um, uh, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. But you know, when you're a kid, you're young, and things don't go your way for whatever reason, and so you have a little temper tantrum, and then you decide you decide to punch a wall and instantly regret it. That's why. But I never learned from the regret. So as a kid, I had a little bit of a temper, and yeah, sometimes you just got to lay into a wall, and then, as I say, immediately regret it. So, in specifically for you guys who like boxing games, I used to be like a real um, hardcore Fight Night player. So I used to play Fight Night 3, Fight Night 4, and Fight Night Champions. And Fight Night 4 in particular, that game just used to really grind my gears, but I could never stop playing it. But it just got to a point where, where in that game, it gets to a point where it's like it's scripted because you get knocked down so many times and it just gets harder and harder. And then, you're you're obviously it wasn't that game's like, I don't know, 13 years old. So, and I was playing it at the time, 2009 and whatnot. And it's just such a cheese because you can just be battering the opponent, landing all kinds of haymakers and hooks, and the guy doesn't accumulate any damage. He doesn't he doesn't take a step back, and then all of a sudden he just hits you with this little jab, even though the characters are right up close to each other. There's no leverage in the punch, and all of a sudden you're stunned, and your health bar, your regeneration, your health and stamina regeneration stops, and then he knocks you out. It just really, really irked me. So I just punch a wall, and yeah, so that didn't help. And then when I started boxing regularly, like on a daily basis, um, and you see this with a lot of professionals, like if you look at the hands of professional boxers, it's typically the ring knuckle and the index knuckle are just massive, and that's what I've got. So on both hands, but that's nothing special really. It's not really a badge of honor. I've just got freaky looking fingers now. Um, Andrew, I hope you're not crushing it in the gym with Connor Ben. Nah, nah, I haven't seen Connor in a while, so that's oh damn. I have to check up on him, send him a Christmas card. There's a joke. It's not a good joke. I'm not in contact with Connor Ben at all. Just so you know. Um, Andrew, Outmatch definitely knows his stuff when it comes to S&C. Well, yeah. Thanks, Andrew. Because it helps to, when you're, because I'm in that position as well. So I work with athletes um, while I don't have, obviously, Christmas break right now, but yeah, that's always the thing is what you're doing now. Say Joseph asking, "Are push-ups on your knuckles worth it?" Ask the question and ask different people, but ultimately see for yourself. Because I can't come out and outwardly say, "Oh, uh, nobody should do push-ups on their knuckles because XYZ reason." Because then there might be dozens of people who do them and get a load of benefit. You just have to ask questions, find out for yourself. I always tried them, or I tried them on a few occasions. Never worked for me, you know. So experience is going to be your best friend. Uh, Andrew says he's been there. Yeah, lay into the wall. Excuse me, guys. Oh boy. Uh still not 100%. Cold still got grip on me a little bit. Joseph asks, I personally think the best way for Fury to get in the ring for Undisputed is if people start writing him off and calling Usyk the favorite. He thrives in being the underdog, in my humble opinion. Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with you there because we may even be going towards that because a lot of people have turned on Fury um, off the back of the whole Derek Chisora trilogy saga because that really was terrible. Tyson Fury has the audacity to call himself the greatest heavyweight of all time, but then goes in for a rematch, a trilogy fight with Derek Chisora, someone who has 12 or 13 losses, has looked probably the worst he's ever looked in his career, and Tyson Fury's already beaten him twice. And it was pay-per-view, what, £27.95? Even worse. Even worse. So I do feel like there's started to be a shift in the public perception of Tyson Fury. Some people, at bare minimum, they've kind of just lost their patience with him. They probably still think he beats Usyk, but they're just like, oh, we don't care about Tyson Fury until he fights Usyk. So we may be heading towards that. And I think you're right. Tyson Fury, he needs to feel a sufficient threat from his opponent. That's why we've kind of seen his most lackluster performances come against guys who are relatively unassuming and perceived as being levels below Tyson Fury. So it is interesting to see how his mind operates. And I suspect that he does perceive Usyk as a threat. And all this stuff he's been talking about, how Usyk's a blown up middleweight and this and that. Um, that is Tyson Fury's way of downplaying the threat of Usyk, so he perceives him as being more manageable. Because I'm definitely in the camp of people who think that Fury could very well lose to Usyk. I don't buy the whole thing. Oh, Fury's massively bigger and he's this heavyweight version of Mayweather who's just untouchable and Usyk won't be able to reach him. I don't buy that for a second. I think Tyson Fury is a good, slippery, slick fighter against other heavyweights who are big, clunky, and don't have the best coordination, aren't as quick, aren't as good boxers, aren't as good a boxer as uh, Alexander Usyk. And if you look at Tyson Fury's reaction to Usyk getting onto the ring apron after the Derek Chisora fight, Fury's reaction really spoke volumes for me. So, he was looking at Usyk and Usyk was looking back at him. And Tyson Fury was just screaming all kinds of nonsense in his face. And Usyk didn't react, partially because he probably doesn't understand most of it. But even then, even if he did understand, he knows that Tyson Fury is looking to get a reaction out of him. And so how's Tyson Fury going to get under somebody's skin like he did with Deontay Wilder, for example, if the guy doesn't react and he just deflects it, just bounces off him? I thought that was very interesting. I think, as I say, I think it said a lot about how Tyson Fury views Usyk, because Tyson Fury almost seemed a little bit unsettled by the fact that Usyk just wasn't responding. He was just like an android, just staring at him. And then it was only when Joe Joyce came in, it kind of added a little bit of levity to the situation, and Tyson Fury had someone else who he could direct to. Maybe I'm looking too much into it, but I thought it was quite telling, to be honest. Poor Derek couldn't even eat his Five Guys. Yeah, he probably had all of his teeth knocked out of his head after that fight, which I still haven't watched. I really don't want to watch that fight. I remember the night of the fight, I had a copy and I could have watched it, but I was just like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to watch it. So I just listened to Hatman, G-Man, Chris, just listen to their videos. The last thing I want to see is Tyson Fury going against someone who's beaten twice before. Andrew asks, who would I pick in that fight? Is it 50-50? I'm half tempted to keep you guys waiting until the fight happens. But then I understand I'll probably potentially change my mind. But I'm picking Usyk. Do I pick him with a lot of confidence? No, I see it as 51-49 in favor of Usyk. But I just don't buy this whole thing like it's an easy fight for Tyson Fury and it's just a matter of time before he becomes undisputed. Because so many people say that. And I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And Tyson Fury, I've never picked against Tyson Fury. The only time I guess you could say I kind of picked against him was in the first Wilder fight because I actually picked that fight to be a draw. So, but is that me picking Tyson Fury to get beaten? No. Um, but the fight against Usyk, I think I said like over a year ago that if Usyk beats Joshua, which he has done twice, but at the time I said if Usyk beats Joshua, in my opinion, he has a well, let me rephrase it. I saw Joshua as being the toughest fight stylistically for Alexander Usyk, just because Joshua has a certain sharpness and coordination to keep up with Usyk. And so I said that if he can get past Joshua, I have a lot of confidence in him beating Fury and Wilder. As I say, I may waver a bit from that depending on what I see, but for the most part, I still I think Usyk has more than enough to win the fight. Will it be easy? No, but can he do it? I believe so. Dalmas Manbun, good to have you here as always. Bit late, so I'm not sure if you talked about this yet, but thoughts on the Martin versus Rivera fight last week? Well, yeah, we touched on that briefly. Someone asked me if I'd seen it, and I hadn't. I'd only seen highlights just because I've been so busy. Um, and I've had to be really selective with the boxing I've watched. So most fights I just catch highlights of. So, but I was saying if it was a decent fight and a decent performance, you guys let me know and I can check it out and get a bit of a gauge on this Frank Martin character. Just bear with me, people. Oh, sorry about that, people. uh, but yeah, Dalmas, I'll be interested to hear what you have to say about it because I haven't seen anything of Martin other than the highlights from the Rivera fight. So, what do you think? What's your take? And I'll check him out. Joseph, the toughest spars I ever had in the gym of people significantly smaller than me. Some of these guys could not be hit with a 6 foot pole. All this talk about Fury size is baffling. Yeah, people definitely get a bit lost in the whole size thing. Bigger isn't always better, and much like you, Joseph, some of the hardest experiences I've had in a ring have come against guys smaller. Um, and there's actually, I don't know about you, but there's a degree of comfort that you sometimes get when you're the smaller person, when you're going in against someone who's taller, rangier, um, just because you're able to work around them a bit easier uh, if you know what you're doing, kind of thing. Like, I think I kind of fall into that because me and one of my closest friends, we both started boxing at the same time. So we were in our early teens, but he was already 6 foot 1. Um, yeah, like 6'1", 6'2", and he hasn't grown since. Um, so he was a big guy for his age, but quite slim. I was a lot shorter. I don't even think I was. How tall was I at the time? Um, I, I I can't remember how tall I was, but I only came up to like his shoulders. Uh, and so early days of boxing, I had a lot of experience sparring with him, and he just had like massive height and reach advantage over me. But I got really comfortable learning how to get under his shots and get close to him and really hurt him. Even though we were good friends, we'd really trade some heavy leather. Um, And I remember our first spar actually floored him as well because I obviously when I'm in against him, I'm like trying to do my best Mike Tyson impression because he's so much taller than me, and he threw a 1-2. And bear in mind, he's like 6'2", got super long arms. He threw this 1-2, and I slipped both punches, but I slipped the right hand, and I came up with a left to the body and a right to the body, and it was like that video of Mike Tyson where he's showing Larry Merchant how to knock someone out, and he's like left right to the body. That's what I did to him, and it just folded him in half, and that was our first spar, and I felt like I felt invincible that day. But then I went to spar some other people and got my ass kicked. So just goes to show. Yeah, bit of trivia. Outmatch's first spar. Boxing on the edge. Hello, brother. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. As you probably heard, I've been busy, a little bit under the weather as well, a bit ill, but feeling better. Got some stuff done and looking to have a bit of a live stream here and a hangout. So it's good to talk to you. Haven't It's been a minute. Haven't spoken in a while. I hope you're doing all right. Any plans for Christmas and New Year's over stateside? Joseph King. To be fair to Fury, he's doing the wise thing and sparring young, ambitious, and fiery opponents like Anderson and Adeleye. Yeah, definitely. That is a good point. Um, but you just need a balance, because guys like Anderson and Adeleye, they are, as you say, young, ambitious, fiery, energetic, but maybe a little bit green. So technically, they can't maybe give you the most technical spars. So it's a balance of both. But I think it's going to be good preparation just because I don't think Fury's best bet in the Nusick fight is to win technical. He has to be physical. And I think there's just going to be a very stark contrast between the skill level and the dexterity and the boxing IQ between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. And Tyson Fury is going to have to be that big, fat, ugly, lanky ogre, which we've seen him be in the past. Boxing on the Edge says Rivera lacked creativity and was looking mostly for mostly one shot all night. Martin was sharper, crisper, and in control practically all fight. Martin was able to neutralize Rivera's jab. Frank Martin is a southpaw, right? And Rivera is orthodox. Is that correct? Because, yeah, in that sense, a lot of it's this conventional wisdom, if you want to call it that. I don't think it's very wise. Where orthodox fighters sometimes they're taught just dispense with the jab and look to like the right hand becomes your jab. That, in my opinion, that's very silly because you can jab with a southpaw. Southpaws don't have any advantages over orthodox fighters. It's an experience difference because southpaws become so much more used to fighting right-handed fighters than right-handed fighters get fighting southpaws. But you can jab with a southpaw. You just need to drill it. You need to practice it. You need to understand what the southpaw is trying to achieve with their lead hands, um, and further, like, and so on. And as soon as you understand what a southpaw is trying to do, you can fairly easily neutralize it. Is it easy? No, you still have a fighter in front of you who's sharp, athletic, probably hits hard, but it's really just exposure and practice. So, yeah, doesn't surprise me. But there's a lot of boxing dogma like that, and I don't subscribe to any of it. Good performance from Martin. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people impressed by it, so I'd definitely check it out. It was pretty one-sided. Yeah, I gathered that. I think Martin might be a top 5 lightweight now. He's a real problem for anyone at that weight class. Yeah, I think that's what Chris was saying. Chris Andre, he rates Martin quite highly. He says he might be one of the top guys. I think he said like top 10 at lightweight, which, lightweight's pretty stacked right now. So that's a decent accolade. Martin also took away the Rivera right hand mostly. Once again, a southpaw is taught, don't let him land the right hand. But then if you're an orthodox fighter, a lot of the time you're being told, try like forget about the left hand and just land the right. And what's going to happen? You're not going to have anything left if you go in against a good southpaw who understands what he's doing. Okay. Uh, Boxing on the Edge says, I'm good, thanks, mate. Xmas with the missus family in Long Island. Uh, Nothing special. How about you? Uh, I'm doing the same as I've done every other year for as long as I can remember. Um, uh, Christmas Eve, one side of the family, Christmas Day, the other side of the family, and then the night of Christmas Day with the missus family. So, yeah, essentially three families, 2 days, standards, really. Yeah, very uneventful Christmas and New Year's. To be honest, I just want to get out of the way. Just want to get out of the way, buy what needs to be bought, eat what needs to be eaten, see who needs to be seen, and then crawl back under my rock. Sorry, I just had to cough once again. Boxing on the Edge, Xmas Eve. We are having some people over. I'm cooking a beef Wellington. Oh boy, I do not envy you, beef Wellington. Um, Good luck with that. I've never attempted a Wellington myself. Will we be getting a Boxing on the Edge tutorial? Some coaching points on how to cook the beef Wellington? No, that's good. Enjoy the festivities. Some good food. Joseph asks, many have claimed that Broner was more naturally talented than Mayweather. Do I agree? No, I don't. Is Broner a naturally talented fighter? Yeah, definitely. Broner's very athletic, very polished technique, very little discipline, but a good, dynamic, skilled fighter in his own right. But Mayweather was just because when you look at talent, it's very, I don't know, it's very can be very broad, overarching kind of term. But when you consider Mayweather's kind of naturally analytical mind, um, to pick things up, to process information on the fly and adjust his actions accordingly, Mayweather is probably one of the most naturally talented fighters in history. Um, I'm not saying that he's one of the best because I believe that his resume leaves a lot to be desired when compared to the real greats of boxing. Is he an all-time great? Absolutely. Is he potentially one of the most naturally talented fighters of all time? Yes. Um, a real, yeah. I don't agree with that, but Broner does deserve some degree of credit because I always liked Broner's style. It's just a shame that he's just such an idiot. He's such Broner is what you call a doofus. Just yeah. Don't get me started on that because I actually really like watching Broner, or at least I did back in the day. A lot of good things to like about him stylistically, but no, not more naturally talented than Mayweather. That is a tough ask for anyone. Any boxing coming up? To be honest, I don't really know. I saw that today on the undercard of Eubank Jr. versus Smith, which is next end of January. Some undercard fights were announced. Richard Riakporhe versus Glovaski, and Joseph Parker will be making a comeback against Jack Massey. Decent fights, nothing special. Bear with me, guys. Excuse me. Uh, yeah, they're okay fights for an undercard. Pretty decent. Um, what else is there in January? Uh, Obviously, you got Tank versus Garcia, but I think that'd just be a relatively simple run out for Tank. What else? What else? What else? I'm just looking for a list. Uh, yeah, Tank Davis on the 7th. Oh, KSI on the 14th. Can't wait for that. Uh, FA Jagba versus Oscar Rivas. Brilliant fight on January 14th. A week later, on the 21st, Chris Eubank Jr. versus Liam Smith. Just mentioned that. 28th is the big one, in my opinion. Artur Beterbiev versus Anthony Yarde. I'm just pumped for that fight. Can't wait. 28th, Jamel Charlo versus Tim Tszyu. Very good fight. I like that one. Adrian Broner versus Red Catch. Decent scrap on February the 18th. So yeah, 2023, January starting strong. I like that a lot. G-Man. Rivas pulled out of an injury. Damn it. Damn it. Yeah, that sucks. Never mind. Never mind. Hopefully that fight can be rescheduled because I like that one a lot. Any news? What kind of injury it was? I bet knowing Rivas, it's some kind of muscular injury where he's just been pumping too many weights and I don't know, ruptured something. Damn it, Rivas. For me, the real standout is Beterbiev versus Yards. I really like that fight, and it's not undisputed. You know, we want to see Beterbiev versus Bivol, but Beterbiev versus Yard, I think that's a good consolation prize, if I'm honest. And I was considering getting tickets, but apparently they're quite steep. I thought it was going to be one of those fights where, because neither guy is particularly high profile, it would be one that's relatively easy to snatch some tickets up for it. But apparently the price is up there a bit, and January, I don't get paid enough. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one though. But yeah, overall, January, good month, has to be said. And hopefully, like 2017, a year that I constantly wax lyrical about because there's so many great fights happened, and that had a very strong, January, very strong kick to the year. Hopefully, like that year, 2023 with a strong January sets the tone and really sets an example that other fighters look to to keep up over the year, and then we just have a busy year and having another good year for boxing. G-Man. Okay, eye injury. Interesting. Does Oscar Rivas have a history of eye injuries? Because I feel like I've heard something about this before. Because I might be thinking of someone else, but isn't doesn't Oscar Rivas have vision problems? Like he's short-sighted or something, so it was like difficult for him to get a boxing license in certain countries. My Yes, it was. I've just found this ESPN article from 2016. Oscar Rivas fails eye test out of Gerald Washington bout. See. Oh, the memory. I've got it. Not as good as G-Man's, but it's close. Yeah, I knew Rivas has had not exactly eye problems, but he obviously failed some eye tests back in the day. And that's unfortunate. I wonder how severe it is because Oscar Rivas is a fighter. I want to see him do a bit more. Dalmas, Terence Crawford's new promotional company seems to want to make Crawford versus Broner. Would you be excited for that one at all? Excited? No. Interested? Potentially. Just to see how Crawford deals with Broner, who is somewhat established. I guess you could say he's done things in the past and has a, you know, he's Broner's a kind of barometer opponent, but I think everyone kind of suspects that Crawford's better than him. But maybe it'd be an interesting clash of styles. But you just can't trust Broner these days because he's probably going to sign for a fight, doesn't start getting in shape until 2 weeks out, and then decides to pull out. And yeah, the fight doesn't happen. So I don't know, but interesting maybe. I certainly wouldn't want to see it over any other fight that could realistically be made. But all right, hour and 12 minutes, people we've been going for. I might just let's take it for another 2 minutes and 20 seconds up until 1:15. If you guys have any questions, that is. Broner looked pretty overweight the other day. Huge gut on him. Yeah, I saw that. Talk about, Santa Claus coming to town. Broner's looks like he's eaten. He's certainly been eating the mince pies and drinking the eggnog because he had quite the gut on him. Really, really like head scratcher stuff. He's Broner's just lost. Another. I don't know. I don't like talking about guys like that, like Broner and Tank Davis, just because they represent a part of society, especially in America, which is just gross. It's horrible. Errol looks chunky too. Yeah, Errol Spence is kind of fallen off the rails a little bit over the years. It looked like there was a point in time when he was a really zoned in, disciplined fighter, but then he started to let loose a little bit as he's enjoyed some success, which I don't like one bit, because that was really what was his defining quality. Errol Spence was his discipline and just his relentlessness in and out of the ring, fighting and training. Downs asks, who would you want as an ideal replacement for a Jagba? In terms of entertainment or in terms of matching the style for matching the style of Rivas? Because a Jagba, there are a lot of guys he could fight and it'd be entertaining. Heavyweight is stacked, so but if he's looking for someone to emulate Rivas, I'm not sure. There aren't many high-level short heavyweights around. There are some shorter heavyweights, but I'd consider Rivas a short heavyweight. I swear he's only like 6 foot. He's not particularly tall at all. Broner looked unbelievably slow on the pads too. Okay. Broner's not looking in good shape then. All right. Okay, people. We've been going for an hour and 15. Looks like people are starting to drop out the chat bit now. I think it's getting on. It's 6:30. I'm going to get some food in me, get some training done. And this will probably be the last. Actually, no, I'm going to say, I was going to say it might be the last live stream of the year. Watch this space. There may be another one. And if there is, I'll try pick it on a quiet day where people can actually turn up. Yeah, I'm not making any promises, but we'll see. But if you're celebrating Christmas, I hope you celebrate responsibly. Remember, don't drink and drive, and if you do, don't get caught. I'm probably going to get demonetized now, but yeah. Look, all the same, enjoy the festivities. Happy Christmas, or Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll catch you on the next one, people. Have a good one. I am out, and I'll